Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello, collectors and spreaders of the good oil. We've got some great news for you today. We've got masses and masses of good oil for you today here at Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. So grab your biggest, shiniest bucket and we'll start the pouring now. In today's episode, for the lovers of good coffee and smooth sounds, there's a new development that combines the two. No more using heat and pressure to make your coffee. No, that's so 2025. In the future, we're all using ultrasound waves for our espresso. I nearly said espressos. Oh, my goodness. For our espressos, and you are going to love the new coffee vibes. Now, hey, kids. When you've had enough of your overly critical and incessantly nagging parents, don't worry, relief is on the way. We're bringing you gifts from the AI engines that'll change the colour of your day. It's virtual parents, and they'll affirm all your misguided ideas. What could possibly go wrong there, huh? And we're going to check out the latest in the EV SUV from Škoda. We'll check out why smart glasses are really taking off. And we'll play with a cool new feature from Google Earth. All that and more coming right up. But before we go any further, we need the driver for this virtual bus. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Welcome to the microphone, Mr. Matthew Dickerson.
Well, hold it down there. Hold it down. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Here till Thursday. I've had an interesting conversation this week when I was doing a radio segment, and a caller came in with a valid question, one that I hadn't really considered. He said he was considering an EV, which is fantastic. I love it when people are considering that and looking at that. We know from previous episodes that more and more people are doing that. Mm. But his issue was that he does a bit of caravanning. He likes to tow his caravan. Mm. And so I first of all thought the question was going to be about, are there EVs out there that can tow? Do we have ones with capacity to tow balls, et cetera, et cetera? So I was already with the answer. Yeah. Yes, we've got some models out there. Yes, they can tow. It will reduce your range, but that's okay. But his problem was this. He said, I've looked at some cars, they can tow, that's all great, but how do I charge? Because all the charges that I've seen...
You've got to back up.
You back into it, don't you? The charging port on most of the car models...
I never thought of that.
That's right, because I don't tow a caravan or a trailer while I'm taking around my EV, so I hadn't thought of that.
This guy's sort of all the angles.
Well, that's exactly right. So what do? Do you unhitch your trailer off to the side, then you back in, you charge up, and it becomes pretty cumbersome, doesn't it, to charge up?
I think that's all you can do, surely.
Well, that's right, but I actually wondered what it looked like around the rest of the world. And I thought, surely we're not the first ones to experience this. We're not the first in line for EV adoption across the world. There's other places around the world that have got that. And absolutely, there are places around the world that have addressed this problem and thought of it as
caravans.
Caravan towing with EVs. So a lot of the charging stations now, and this was across Europe and even across the US, are doing what I would call a pull-through, a bit like a traditional petrol station.
Petrol bowser.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You haven't got the problem when you go and fill up your car that tows a caravan at a petrol station with, oh no, I've got to back up there to fill it up. So a lot of them are doing pull-through, so you park as you would a normal petrol station, and a lot of them are using longer leads so that if you do have to pull up somewhere that's not exactly perfect for where you are, you've got a longer lead. Now, typically you've got fairly short leads on chargers because you've got a lot of current going through there, so you want to have some nice big conductors and a shorter distance so you're not generating too much heat, not losing too much in the transmission of that power. But again, you can address that. You can have larger conductors or you can just accept the fact you're going to lose a little bit, but that's been addressed around the world. So I think where we are at the moment in Australia is we've got typically backing up charging spots. Typically, a lot of the superchargers, fast chargers are in car parks of libraries, visitor information centres, cafes, but that's going to change, and that's what's happened overseas. You see more dedicated charging spots. In fact, some petrol stations have added EV charging to their repertoire.
There's no limit to human initiative, right? And so where people come up with an idea or there's a problem, people will come up with ideas to solve it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, yes, if you're going to tow a caravan right now in Australia, you're probably going to have to unhitch it at most locations. I'm trying to think of ones that I've seen that you don't, but if you didn't, you'd be stealing a couple of spots. You'd be parking sideways across there and being a bit selfish to other EV drivers. So you're probably going to have to unhitch, back in, charge up, on you go again. So it's a bit of a penalty there, but it is changing, and I can see more and more petrol stations. Let's face it, if there's a market there, they'll address it. So they'll say, here, come to our place because we've got petrol stations with petrol and with EV chargers.
Well, I wonder how many petrol stations out there are going to start to put on, and some of them already got them there, cafes and other outlets as well. A couple of, service centres that have got McDonald's or Hungry Jack's or something attached to them as well, and some fast food outlets and whatnot. But it'll become a stop where you take 15, 20 minutes out and fill up with your electricity and then move on.
And in your caravan, that's fine because it'll just be drive on through and on you go, sir.
Yeah. Very good. All right, now we better get on with our stories for the day. When you're feeling crook, the first go-tos for any domestic nurse, and when I say that I mean mum, and when I say that I mean mum or dad, but that's just to be inclusive. Really, we know that if it's dad, it's only because mum's not home. The first go-to, as I was saying, is the temperature check. But we all know that the back of the hand on the forehead hasn't been really acceptably accurate since the 60s. In the 70s and 80s, the mercury thermometer under the tongue was a step up, unless your mum was really serious, and then it was straight up the... And if that was the case, you really knew that you were no longer in Kansas anymore, so to speak. Now, digital thermometers are usually the go these days, and they save us all further discomfort. The infrared ones that you aim at the forehead do a pretty good job on the whole, but they only give you a snapshot in that moment of time. And in the grisly world of managing the sick, when temperatures spike and drop like a roller coaster, it'd be helpful to get temperature readings on the go in real time, wouldn't it, mate?
Just for the record here, when I was thinking about internal temperature sensors, I was actually thinking of the ear rather than where you've gone to straight away. That is a valid option, though. I grant you that is a valid option and an accurate option.
Some of us who lived through the 70s and 80s have been there. And internal temperature, they reckon that's pretty accurate.
That's right. So we'll leave that to the listener's imagination. But you're right. The fever, the temperature is a simple way to check on someone's health. In fact, if you go back probably 130 years or more, you would see death certificates with cause of death, fever. And, of course, fever didn't cause the death. There was some other issue there with that particular human, and they had a fever as a result of that particular issue. But, of course, we didn't know enough about germs and about various diseases 100 and odd years ago.
Yeah.
So it would have just been, he was really hot to touch and then he died. So it must have been fever. So we know that temperature is an indicator of some issue. But if we could get it more accurate and if we could get it more regular, we could actually track a whole range of things. So researchers at the MIT have got an ingestible temperature sensor. This is ingestible via the mouth.
Right.
So you take that and it will give you the core body temperature accurate to within 0.01 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Pretty accurate.
That's pretty good.
Maybe more accurate than the back of the hand on the forehead, which is what, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2. So you ingest it. It sits down there. It's pretty small. It's about 4 by 6 millimetres. The battery on it is a button battery, but not like the button battery that we don't want kids to be swallowing because you would choke on that. It's a 4.8 millimetre diameter button battery. So it's probably more like the size.
That's tiny.
Yeah, the whole thing is probably more like the size of a vitamin tablet or some type of tablet you might swallow. So you swallow this, it goes down and it sits inside your stomach. It obviously goes through all the way. It doesn't just sit there forever, but it's monitoring that temperature as it goes through. It then transmits that to a little antenna that you have on the outside of the body, which then provides most of the power to transmit that further to a smartphone or some measuring device. So obviously it doesn't need much power to transmit that, and it continues to transmit through the whole journey it takes through your system.
And presumably it's transmitting continuously, so you're no longer getting snapshots, you're getting a graph.
Every second it transmits your temperature every second. Now, the first instance where they say that this will be used is something like someone in surgery, for example, under anaesthesia, and they want to check to make sure that person is healthy all the way. There's various indicators, but monitoring their temperature along that process is a really important part of that, which they do now, but from an external perspective, not from literally an internal perspective. So that's one. When you've got someone that might be having some treatments, for example, maybe some treatment for cancer, maybe while you're having the treatment, you might want to just make sure that the body isn't reacting too violently against that treatment. So someone with chemotherapy, anything that you're doing something on the body and you need to know what's happening right now, it might be trying to treat them and actually give that particular person some sort of treatment to fix some sort of short-term issue they've got. And again, monitoring that temperature gives you an indication whether that treatment is successful in the moment, not see how you feel in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's right now. What's happening to your body temperature right now? So not something, well, maybe it will be, but I don't think it'll be something that you'll have in the medicine cabinet at home. Maybe you will have, but I think it's more something that will be used in the hospital system, used when you need to know that temperature right now.
I'm just wondering the reusability of these things and how you're retrieving them, of course. And then the temptation, like, I'm the fifth guy to use this one.
That's right. So I'm not sure that you reuse them. Maybe you do. I mean,
sterile. If they can sterilise stuff, then it should be fine. It's just the idea of where it's been.
Well, just the idea of getting it back from where it's been.
Getting it back from someone else, and
so. And I say that I can't see them using the medicine cabinet at home, but maybe ovulation. If you want to track ovulation, then having an accurate temperature reading there mightn't be too bad. So maybe I'm being a bit too flippant with that. Maybe it will be in the medicine cabinet at home. So rather than stick the thermometer under the tongue or in the ear, it'll be, you're feeling sick, take this, Johnny, and we'll just monitor your temperature while we're just laying you down on the couch, giving you some Disprin, whatever it might be, while we track that. And if it gets above this temperature, bang, straight to the hospital, because obviously something more serious is going on. So we are getting incredibly good at monitoring things in our body. And there's some talk from MIT, once they get to the stage where they think they've got this absolutely spot on, you might have more things on the same ingestible platform. So it might monitor your temperature and your heart rate, for example. It might monitor other things. It might start to monitor things
you could be measuring pH in the various parts of your digestive system.
Yeah, all sorts of other things. But the first thing is temperature, see if we can get a handle on that, and then go from there. So it's
amazing.
It's pretty cool what people are coming up with.
Very cool. So if you've done any thermodynamics at senior high school level, you'll know that temperature is just the kinetic energy or movement energy of the particles in any system. So if you pass heat into them, they'll move faster and the temperature will go up. That makes sense. But there's more than one way to skin a cat in physics. Of course, sound waves will also get particles moving. So some clever engineering type boffins at the University of New South Wales who love their daily caffeine fix have created a new way to brew espressos, and it's music to our ears, Matt.
It is actually kinetic theory of gases. I assume that's still a topic studied.
For sure.
Absolutely one of my favourite topics studied during physics in Year 12, so I love the concept of that.
Yeah, Boyle's law, Charles' law, all that sort of stuff. Yep.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating, yeah. So when Thomas Edison developed his long-lasting carbon filament light bulb in 1879, it changed the world. And so at that point we went, you know what? Let's just keep improving that. We run some current through a filament. We changed what that filament was made of, and we got different types of light, brighter lights, duller lights, different colours of lights, and we thought that was the go in terms of lighting. And then some bright spark, excuse the very bad pun, said, what about LED? What about light-emitting diodes? Could we use that instead? And I remember it was about 2010, I had, in one of my businesses, I went, geez, we use a lot of electricity here, lots of bright lights. It was wonderful when you walked in. And so I spent a lot of money replacing all the lights in there with LEDs and went, this is what the world is about, what the world of science, what the world of discovery is about.
Yeah.
Saying, no, we're not just taking that carbon filament element that Thomas Edison patented or created back in 1879 and making it a bit better. We've changed it completely. We've gone to LEDs.
Yeah.
And so that was fantastic. I can't remember, it was a 2-year payback time on the incredible amount of money I spent on the reduction of electricity. I did do the calculations. It seemed to work out vaguely okay in my reduction of electricity, but I love the idea that it was just something completely different.
Yeah.
And this is where we're at with coffee. So there's a whole range of different ways to make coffee. And I think the UNSW researchers would have had no shortage of people. We need some volunteers to drink some coffee and see if it tastes the same done this slightly different way. Any volunteers? Oh, okay, there's a lineup already. Before they even said any volunteers, there was a lineup already. So we've got a lot of people across the world who start their day with a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And, of course, it seems pretty simple. You just heat some water up, get it to whatever temperature. People, the coffee buffins will have their exact temperature they like.
65 or 70? Yeah, look, I'm not a barista.
Whatever it is, people like to make sure they've got their coffee at the right temperature and they mix in their coffee and that's it. They've got their morning joe to start their day. Fantastic. But these researchers said, no, that's the old world. What about if we used sound waves to create enough friction in the beans and the water itself to basically create a coffee without having to just waste a bunch of energy heating it all up. So,
well, we lose so much energy and heat to the environment, and so it's a very wasteful way of getting things to do work.
And more than that, I wonder if the whole concept of heating up an element, putting effectively electricity through a resistor to heat that up, to then transfer the heat from that element to the water, and then, as you say, to lose a lot of it to surface area. You've got the surface area of whatever container you've got that water in. There's a lot of losses along the way there to get to the point where I've got the water at the right temperature to put my coffee in, and now I'm a happy man. So they decided to use ultrasonic sound waves, and what actually happens with that is you effectively get this vibration. If you like, they described it as getting a little brush inside the coffee grounds and basically brushing it up and down to create or to give you a big surface area of that coffee grounds in the actual water itself.
Right.
So you're getting this vibration, you're getting these tiny brushes breaking apart the coffee particles, getting all the flavour compounds, the oils, and of course the most important part, the caffeine, out of the coffee grounds, out of the coffee beans, and then basically getting it to that strength you want it. So using ultrasonic sound waves, they found they could do this, and they used 75% less power to give me a cup of coffee.
75%.
So it's not just saving a couple of percent here and there.
Significant.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, wow.
So I love the idea. And you think, well, you're only boiling a cup of coffee for a couple of minutes to get to the point where you've got your cup of coffee. It can't be much energy you're using for that, which is right. You're not using a lot of energy, as inefficient as it is. You're not using a lot of energy, but you multiply that cup of coffee by everyone across the world. Yeah. How many? There'd have to be a billion people. There'd have to be billions of people across the world that have a cup of coffee to start their day. So you think, well, you only use an extra couple of, well, it wouldn't be kilowatt hours, a couple of watt hours in making that cup of coffee, but multiply that by enough. That's a big chunk of energy. So
we're living in an energy crisis.
We are. So I can see in the not too distant future, UNSW patenting their concept, selling it to one of the various white goods, brown goods manufacturers out there, and the new coffee machine on your desktop in your kitchen will be an ultrasonic sound wave coffee machine.
I just wonder, does it take longer? Is it?
It's about 3 minutes, they said, to make a cup of coffee.
So 3 minutes.
So it's probably a little bit longer.
Yeah, so it could be a problem just because baristas here in Australia are just trying to churn through so many coffees in a short amount of time.
True, but maybe it's more the home environment rather than the commercial environment. Or maybe this is the first iteration of it. And so the researchers now say, we've got it. And they did do some taste tests. I love the fact they did some blind taste tests.
Of course they did.
And it wasn't double blind, only single blind taste test. But they lined up. They got over 100 volunteers just to go through and keep tasting cups of coffee and say, was that done with boiling water or was that done with ultrasonic sound waves? And most of the people could not tell the difference. And the people that did think one was better than the other thought the ultrasonic sound wave was better than the actual. So they've tasted it. That's all good. So if you get up in the morning and it took 3 minutes instead of, what's a normal cup of coffee take? A minute and a half?
Yeah, if that.
A minute to 3 minutes maybe. Maybe some people.
It's sort of, a lot of people got those just press button machines that you just walk away.
Correct.
While it does all the magic.
So you walk away for 3 minutes. Do you notice you go and, I don't know, comb your hair, shave, whatever?
Yeah.
So you do that and come back and there's your cup of coffee and you know you've just used 75% less power for that. I mean, there has to be a pretty good marketing campaign. Spend $100 on this new machine that will give you a payback period of 18 years. So maybe something a bit better than my marketing slogan there. But I do like the fact that they just said everyone accepts the fact that you boil some water, stick some coffee in, job done.
Because that's the way we've always done it.
Correct. And someone said, you know what, there's a different way to do it.
Better.
Yeah. So absolutely brilliant. And I love that it's a completely different concept. So keep an eye out on the shelves. Christmas 2 years' time, I'm predicting for that one.
Smart glasses, up until now, have largely been something of a novelty, a gimmick perhaps, a niche gadget for those among us with enough disposable cash to burn. For a while there, smart glasses came under fire for being so niche that they nearly fell out of the marketplace into obscurity forever. But two things have happened in recent times to lift things in the smart glasses sphere. For one, AI seems to give everything a lift, but has a real home in this tech. And secondly, just enough of the right people have taken them up, and so some real momentum is building here, Matt.
Who are the right people? Is that you and me, you're saying?
Well, the right people who find a good use for them and find that their life has been enhanced in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and I think there's some other things that have happened as well. I think the actual batteries have gotten better, so that's a bit of a development.
There's more than two things.
Well, true, but
I didn't think deeply enough.
No, what you've said is absolutely spot on. But I think if we go back 10 years, 15 years ago when the Google glasses first came out, there's been some technical developments as well as the AI and the
Well, it was
use
just
of
a
them.
case of, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the Eiffel Tower. Tell me about the Eiffel Tower. And it was kind of just novelty, and that was it.
It was, that's right. But it was also not great battery life. Mm-hmm. The sensors weren't fantastic. The cameras weren't that good. It was a bit bulky. So lots of things went...
There was a lot of promise, and the delivery didn't match the promise.
Correct. So now, jump forward to 2026, the technology has started to deliver what we wanted it to. AI has certainly helped us without a doubt. And also, you've just got some people going, these are pretty useful.
And everyone can be Tony Stark.
Everyone can be Tony Stark, which is the important part. So the other thing that's happened is that the Augmented World Expo, or, I like it, it's got an acronym, is showcasing the latest development. So once you've got your own expo, things are getting a bit more serious. Yeah. And so now you've got a bunch of different glasses. To give you an idea of the quantity here, 2.25 million units were shipped in the first quarter of this year, the first calendar quarter, January to March. So that's pretty significant. So you're starting to get a decent-sized market. By the end of the year, I think we'll have shipped maybe 12, 15 million of these. The growth over the last year on year, 167% growth. And admittedly, it was a bit of a lower start, so it's easy to get high volumes growth, but it's growing at a decent sort of number. And then you start to get some big boys playing in this space. So Meta probably dominates the market at the moment. They've got their Ray-Ban Meta range. So you take a well-known brand like Ray-Ban, chuck in Meta with a couple of dollars in their back pocket, and you suddenly get a product that people go, don't mind that. But then you've got Google coming back into it, who had their early go with the Google glasses. People were called glass holes that used to use those because they weren't that popular. Snap, Samsung, Xiaomi, Ray Neo, even Apple are talking about getting into some AI-powered eyewear. And suddenly you start to say, this is looking a little bit more promising because you want the big boys in there competing because they don't like to be beaten, so they keep introducing better products at cheaper prices to get you into their ecosystem or just getting you using their product. So that's all looking good. Then you start to say, well, what can you do with them? Well, you mentioned one obvious use, which is you're a tourist, you look up at something and you go, oh, gee, that's interesting. What is that? It's the Eiffel Tower, you idiot. Don't you know what the Eiffel Tower is? But then it might be, tell me the history of that. How did it come to be? How tall is it? What times can I get in? How much am I going to pay for admission? You've got a lot more information now. Yeah. You might have looked at that 15 years ago and it said Eiffel Tower, and that was about the extent of it. But now we've got so much more information. And you can have some natural language speech with it as well. That's where AI is helping dramatically. So I can have that conversation. Yeah. I want to go to the Eiffel Tower. I want to go up to the first level. How much is that going to cost me? And when is it open? That you couldn't have done 15 years ago. It would have been, there's some information in the glass there to tell me it's the Eiffel Tower, and that's about it. But then you start to do some other cool things. It starts to become more and more about your smartphone. Some people have said smartphone replacement. I'm not convinced, but smartwatch replacement, yeah, maybe. So your calendar, what have I got on my calendar? I'll just look in my glasses to say, look at that. At 5 p.m. I'm meeting with James. That's great. So it's information presented to you in your eyes. Photos, you can look at emails as they come in, text messages. So you've got this information. And again, what do I do with it once I've got that? Well, because the audio processing is getting so much better now, I see a text message. Someone said, I'm going to be 10 minutes late for dinner. I say, okay, sure thing. I can respond verbally, confident that AI is going to translate my voice and actually send that message back. So
well, I tell you, what I need is to be able to control my notifications, what's going to give me notifications, because even as we speak, my watch just vibrates and vibrates and vibrates as I keep getting notifications on some chat group. And so if that was to flash up in front of your eyes, I can imagine that'd be very distracting.
It would be, and that's probably just one of those things that it's probably a 10-minute job that you have 100 of to do, that you go, get around to that 10-minute job. One day I'll sit down, I'll just muck around with those notifications and sort them out.
Yeah.
But, there's always something more important to do than that 10-minute job.
That's right. Yeah.
So
but, this is going to be a very interesting space to see, where more and more of the common Joes pick up these smart glasses and end up swearing by them.
Well, they could swear as well for lots of other reasons. Because one of the things they will do for you as well is language translation. Look at a menu. I saw a little video of someone looking at a menu, translating the menu from another language so you can see the menu in the glasses. You could look like a multilingual legend. You go there, what language is that? Let me just have a look at that. Oh, yes, that looks like the lasagna we're going to order. Fantastic. So you've got that. You've got...
No longer need the pictures on the menu.
That's right. You need the pictures to show you what it's there as well. But you've got currency conversion. You've got just real-time information about things like train bus timetables, bus timetables, a whole range of things like that. Because, again, you've got this power of AI sitting in the background now. So, I think it's getting to that point where there are lots of useful things people can do with them, and probably some people with some accessibility issues as well. Mm-hmm. I can see people using them in a whole range of different ways there. So I'm liking them more and more now, and I wonder how long before we just have this whole AI smart glass conversation with people sitting around the table.
But the smart glasses, they have an optical correction as well. So if people actually need glasses, because these have got to have little screens on them. And stuff like
that's
that.
right. So
I don't think we're at that stage where we can have like an optometrist prescribe you some glasses and cut you some glasses and then have that projector.
Surely we're not that far away from that. Surely, I mean, they are made for people with good vision. In fact, every bit of technology, the writing gets smaller and smaller. Maybe I'm getting older and older, but I'm assuming at this stage that really you just have to be wearing a pair of glasses that you can see on the frame on the inside. If you need correctional glasses, that probably is a bit of an issue. But surely we're not that far away.
So I'm standing on one side of Darling Harbour in Sydney, and I see a sign over the other, across the harbour, and it's just, I can't make out what it's saying. I'm looking at that with my smart glasses. I wonder, can I say zoom in and enhance?
In the movies you could just say enhance image, but probably the issue at the moment is the camera is still so small in the edge of the glasses that you're probably getting a good wide angle view, but not good zoom. And we know that digital zoom is not really that good. Yeah, right. So, but you've got a long arm on the side of a pair of glasses. How long before we have a camera that you need depth for that zoom? So maybe it does zoom in on that.
All you smart glasses manufacturers are giving you a challenge. That's what I need them for. I need you to zoom in and enhance.
Prescription glasses and zoom in on the person sunbaking across the road.
Autonomous vehicles have taken another significant step forward. Now, seeing all the things ahead of you and anticipating changes in conditions early enough to respond safely, well, these are key issues that rest heavily on the cameras that are dotted all over the panels of these driverless cars. The success of these cars rests heavily on their ability to not be the cause of accidents and injuries. So, Matt, how have the cameras on these autonomous vehicles improved in recent weeks to make the ride even smoother and safer for everyone?
It is a real challenge, and you see it if you see CCTV footage and the lights come on or the sun shines through a spot and suddenly it's just blinded with light because the sensors just can't change quickly enough. And so that's a bit of an issue when you're watching CCTV footage, but a bit bigger of an issue when you're driving a car. I'm thinking particularly at night time, driving along. And, as a human, you're driving along, you can see the road with your lights. And if a car comes towards you, especially if they haven't dimmed their high beam, it's a bit overwhelming, a bit blinding, but we're clever humans. Yeah. We can work out where we need to go, focus on the left-hand side of the road. We might slow down, a whole range of things we might change. But our eyes are pretty good at adjusting to that bright light there, and we as humans adjusting a whole range of things. So some researchers have worked on using that same sort of human eye-inspired sensor to basically be able to adjust very quickly to changes in light. And tunnels, think about a tunnel. You drive into a tunnel sometimes, and sure, the sign says make sure your headlights are on. Most people don't put their headlights on, and they get inside the tunnel. They go, it's a bit dark in here, and then they've got to adjust with their eyes going from very bright outside to dark inside, and then the same when you come out the other end.
Coming out as well, yeah,
that's right. So they've got a little, this is Penn State University, have got some human eye-inspired sensors called photomeristor. No, it's not resistor. It's MEMRISTOR, memristor, photomeristor. How's that? Did I get that right? And so this is basically designed to, if you like, adjust the camera in a very quick amount of time, and we're talking about nanoseconds here, to try and adjust it quickly enough so that when you get that bright light, when you get the tunnel, whatever the situation might be, the cameras are adjusting quickly enough. So when we've got those autonomous vehicles, and we know there are some friends of ours that have started to drive their vehicles that are fully autonomous now, when you get in there and you fold your arms and have a nice little rest while the car drives, you want to be pretty confident that some bright lights happen.
Well, I go further than pretty confident. I have ultimate confidence.
Ultimate confidence, total confidence that it's got the lighting side of it all under control. And so it's getting better, but I think that's one of the things that I've seen with just cameras in general, on smartphones, for example. You take some video with a smartphone camera outdoors in good sunlight, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But if you go indoors when the light's not so good, or you go changing light conditions, and I'm thinking about a road, for example, where you've got trees and sun shining through there, so you've got the flashing black and like the dark and the light.
Yeah.
You take a smartphone camera and try and film a video in those sort of conditions, it's not so great. And sometimes if you pick an old camera or a traditional camera, big SLR, for example, with a really big lens, it can handle those things better. But we're trying to make these cars with small cameras, not big cameras on them. So that's the whole idea, get night driving right, get changing conditions right, because we want our autonomous cars to work in every condition. We don't want them to go bright lights, outdoors, everything's okay.
You're not going anywhere.
Well,
when everything's okay.
Right,
Yeah.
But suddenly you get changing light or dark and light, or you can't drive that car. That's not much good as an autonomous vehicle. So we're getting there. It's one of those things I think that we will keep finding problems with autonomous vehicles that will keep being solved until finally we go, it's just normal. Autonomous vehicles are just normal.
Well, that's something that I hadn't even thought of, that the changing light conditions would be an issue, but of course they would be an issue. And so, these are the things that they've been already trying to manage in various cities in the States.
Yeah, that's right.
Where they're using these, and China as well.
And obviously with the testing they're doing, they've got to think of these problems because they don't want you and I to be the first one to discover this problem when we're driving at night one day going, did anyone think about that?
Yeah,
no,
there's an entrepreneur out there who says if you smash enough eggs, you'll find other solutions.
I just don't want the egg to be in my head.
EV take-up in the EU continues to accelerate, with more and more traditional car makers leaning into the maturing technology. Now, today we're taking a peek behind the garage door at the Czech manufacturer Škoda. And it appears, Matt, that they've gone all out with a very bold, fully electric SUV. Does it tick all the boxes, though?
It's ticking the boxes we didn't even know existed.
Oh, that's the sort of box I like.
Now, I'm not really that familiar with Škoda, except I see that the Tour de France, which I like to watch each year, is heavily backed and sponsored by Škoda, and lots of Škoda vehicles are used for various vehicles. So my total extent of knowledge about Škoda is about that. It's about Tour de France, watching on TV. So their sponsorship's done well, although I haven't bought one of their cars, but I'm certainly familiar with the brand at least. One of the things that some experts have been saying is that some of Europe's manufacturers are just not picking up on the EV stories quick enough to compete against some of these Chinese brands. And there's a whole bunch of these brands. There's Geely, there's Zeekr, of course we know BYD is going quite well. Yeah. So these Chinese brands are going well in the market, and they seem to be getting into the market in all sorts of different markets. Meanwhile, some of the European manufacturers, some are, but some aren't necessarily jumping all over this. Škoda, though, have said, and Škoda's got a reputation for good value, low-end pricing, basically your good workman-like vehicles. You're if you want to be seen as the richest person in your neighbourhood, you don't buy a Škoda. You buy a flash European model, a BMW, Mercedes-Benz, etc. Škoda have got that traditional sort of, here's a good value for money car that does a good job, and you don't need to be showing off how rich you are. But what they've done with the EV range, they've got a couple of cars in the EV range. They've got an Peaq EPIQ. It's about $46,000 Australian dollars, so that's kind of in that good value for money sort of realm. But they've also recognised the fact that there's a bit of a need for larger SUV-style EVs. And there's some manufacturers that have shied away from this because they're expensive, because they need a bigger battery, the range isn't as good. But the number of seats in the car is a bit of an issue for family vehicles.
Yeah.
And I can remember way back before EVs when we went from 3 children to 4 children, when we had that discussion and made that decision, the biggest decision was the car.
Yep.
We had a sedan, we had 3 seats in the back and my wife and I in the front, and that all fitted in lovely. And the 4th child, you couldn't strap them in the boot anymore. That was apparently
put them on the
law.
roof rack.
The roof rack was out.
This was the conversation that I had with my own wife, and it's why we pulled up stumps at 3.
Right, there you go.
It was all about the car.
So we had to go with the big Tarago, and my wife swore she would never own a Tarago, but it was just the most practical vehicle at the time. If I was making that decision now, I'd be a bit excited by this because I'd be saying, hold on, you've got a new upmarket flagship from Škoda, and some other manufacturers doing the same thing, where they're saying, let's offer 7 seats in an EV, because most of the EVs so far have been 5 seats.
Yeah.
Maybe some have come out with a 6-seat option, but a 7-seat option, not that common. So if I'm in any business, if I can get a bit of the market that no one else has got, as long as there's a demand for that, then I'm pretty happy with that because I've got a bit of exclusive.
A demand. And look, my sons have all grown up right now, so we've got 3 large boys. Young men. And, so if we all go together as a family, we can't go in the electric SUV that we've got currently.
Yeah, it's just cosy.
It's just too cosy, yeah.
That's right. So they've got, and I'm quite impressed with what they've done, they've only got a 91 kilowatt hour battery, which is bigger than most EVs out there, but I thought they would have gone even bigger than that because they've managed to squeeze about 600 kilometres of driving range out of something that's a 7-seater with a 91 kilowatt hour battery.
That's very good.
Yes, that's not too bad. So I hope there'll be more manufacturers. For Škoda's sake, I hope no other manufacturer gets onto this, but for the general consumer marketplace, I hope more manufacturers realise there is a family demand out there. There is a family market. 6-seater, 7-seater, getting those cars, and then presumably they're larger. They're probably going to be able to be towing something as well, so you can tow your caravan, your camper trailer, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I just think there is a market out there for that.
I'd be surprised if they don't sell like hotcakes, and it'll bring everyone else on board too.
Yeah, that's right. And I agree. I think other manufacturers will say, we better not get them too far ahead. Let's jump on the board.
Now, who says that the boffins at Google Earth have lost their sense of fun and playfulness? Well, probably no one. But now that the novelty of zooming in on the rooftop of your address has gotten a bit old, the folks at Google Earth are luring people back with a web browser version of their flight simulator. Now, with pretty much every square inch of the Earth now 3D mapped by the programmers, you can cut some sick barrel rolls right over your friend's house, or before you zoom into the the Sydney the Sydney Opera House, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and you can practice your emergency landings on Conrod Strait at Mount Panorama. I bet you're headed straight for Area 51, Matt. We'll see just how much attention to detail I give there.
Well, no, I'd say it'd be blocked out completely.
Flight simulator on Google Earth. What a great idea.
Well, on the browser, and this is the big thing here, and it's interesting because I had to do some historical snapshots of an area recently. I was doing some research for a project, and I wanted to see how this area had changed over about a 10-year time frame. And, of course, Google's great. You get historical snapshots of all these different ones, but you've got to use the Google Earth program. Yeah. You can't just go in the browser. No big deal. I've got Google Earth on my computer, so I just went back there, but it was an extra step. I wanted to go in the browser. Whoops, I need the historical snapshots, so I go back to that. There was always the flight sim, well, not always, there was a flight sim in Google Earth. It was hidden away. It was a hidden feature, but it didn't say hidden for long. Once someone discovered it, then everyone knew about it.
Yeah.
So there was a flight sim. Now, flight sims are popular, and it's funny because you can zoom in, as you say, on any part of the Earth, but pretending you're flying while you're zooming on parts of the Earth, that seems to be more exciting for some reason.
Yeah.
But Microsoft's Flight Simulator, the very first version, was released in 1982. there's still a current version. It's the longest running Microsoft application, or even Windows. It predates Windows. Windows came out in about 95, so it predates that. It came out on DOS when you actually had just string lines for the scenery. The scenery was not anything like real scenery. The dials were pretty basic. But 1982, Microsoft Flight Sim 1 came out. The most recent version is 2024, so it's still being released after all those years. So that's for people that are pretty serious about it and really want to feel like they're in a flight sim. Google's Flight Sim in the browser, you could say, is not quite as realistic as Microsoft's Flight Sim, but it's not designed to be. It's designed for you to look at different parts of the Earth. You're about to go on holidays. You want to see what the ski slopes look like. You want to, say, fly over your particular house. What's the most recent photo you've got of that? Have you got all my new solar panels, whatever it might be there? You can do that now straight out of the browser, which I love the idea of that because it just seems like it's more accessible. And I think we'll have more and more of the historical features I talked about. Surely it's not too far away before you'll be able to do that. Because if people can do it in the browser, people are much more likely to use it, and that just keeps you in the Google ecosystem just that bit longer, which is what Google is after. They want to hold on to you once they've got you just for a minute, just for a moment. So it doesn't do flash things like missions. You can't go and get achievements, progression systems. It's really just literally jump in your plane, in inverted commas, and take off and fly around where you are.
Fly around.
That's right. And then go back and land or not. Just crash if you want.
Yeah.
Just crash, you restart.
Well, that was always the thing for me for flight simulators is landing. And I don't think I've had a successful landing since 1982.
Right. So if I'm on a plane with you and the pilot has a heart attack, don't send you to the cockpit.
I'm fine to keep the plane in the air, but when the game's got to finish, then...
You mean when you've got to turn off autopilot? Then we're all in trouble.
Yep. Sorry. Now, if you're an artist, but particularly a musician, heed our warning. You may find this next story quite triggering. AI-generated music appears on streaming platforms and social media as commonplace these days, but it's now also appearing on radio as well. Matt, it was a bold move bringing this story to air, and we're going to get a big target painted on our backs here, and here we go. Does AI-generated music deserve a place on the airwaves? There, I said it. Now I'm backing off.
It's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to let you be the cause of the emails, the angry emails.
Thank you. So you're right, it is on streaming platforms, but what about on radio? Radio, the reason I like to listen to the radio sometimes is because I want to discover new music. Rather than pick some songs that I know the artists and know the songs, I'm just going along and the radio has random music that I wouldn't necessarily have picked. I don't know that this particular artist has released a new song, so I want a bit of variety. But how do I feel about it? Do I feel like I'm a bit gypped, a bit ripped off, a bit tricked if I'm going along and then at the end of that song, which I've just listened to, enjoyed, maybe sung along to, then the announcer says at the end, that was an AI-generated song. Do I feel dirty? Do I feel hollow?
Yeah.
And this is what happened in Northern Ireland. There was a radio station there that was using AI-generated songs, and they told the audience they were using AI-generated songs, and the public reacted almost violently. It wasn't violent, but it reacted quite strongly and said, we're not listening to your radio station any longer if you keep playing AI-generated songs.
Well,
I'm sure they said it a bit harsher than that, but that was the message.
With some slightly stronger language.
That's right.
But yeah, I know there's a lot of musicians out there struggling and they're working hard to get their music to be heard. And when someone can just spend 10 seconds placing an instruction and AI spits out something that is, that it's just created in a heartbeat.
Yep.
That's got to be soul-crushing. Yeah?
Now, the issue here is, do I care? I've said for a long time, people are selfish. Do I care when I'm driving in the car that the announcer says that was AI-generated? I might feel a bit hollow, but for the most people, do they go, that was a good song, I enjoy that song, who cares? And I remember hearing Run, which was the first AI-generated song that I knew about, and I knew it was AI-generated, and I listened to it with a critical mind, and I went, oh, actually, sounds pretty good. So, as much as I didn't want to like it, it just sounded like, well, if an artist created that, we're going, great song, AI created that, I'm going, oh, it's a good song, but is that going to keep being played? What do people think about it? So it is a really interesting question. Now, you're right. There are artists who would love to be having their songs heard on radio. You've only got so much time on radio. There's only 24 hours in a day. If some AI songs are being played, logically, that means some artist-created songs are not being played.
Even streaming services, it's really hard to get yourself noticed because streaming services now have got so much AI-generated stuff on it.
That's right. And they're probably a bit less likely to be worried about criticism because a radio station is relying on advertisers to pay their way. Streaming just relies on people subscribing. And if people keep subscribing because they like the songs on this platform, then I'm going to keep providing songs out there.
It's a perilous world.
It's an interesting one. So there's no legal requirement at the moment for radio stations or streaming platforms, for that matter, to say this is AI-generated content. Now, some platforms have done a voluntary disclosure to let people know this is AI-generated, but most of the time you wouldn't know about it. You just go, I wonder who that artist is. Now, having said that, is there a skill in the person that gives the correct instructions to the song to be created in the right way?
Can they be called an artist, is what you're saying?
I'm kind of going down there.
I just feel the darts being thrown at my back right now, just by association here, man.
Well, here's the interesting one. I've been to concerts where there's been a DJ and they call themselves a musician. And I sometimes question that because I say, hold on, that DJ is doing a fantastic job on a mixing deck.
Yeah.
And the music sounds really good. I'm not critical of that. But is he a musician? He or her, are they a musician when they're not playing
They're not really
an instrument?
putting the notes together.
They're not, are they? So I wonder about that. But
they're putting the samples together.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the people around me who are there to see this particular artist say, no, definitely a musician. But I just don't know if that's right. So it's a bit the same here. If I give the right instruction to create an AI song, am I an artist? Am I a musician because I instructed some other device, other thing to make that music?
It's a hazy shade because for the last 70 years, people have been borrowing, in popular music, they've been borrowing from classical music and pieces from Mozart and adapting it to a modern popular music audience.
Yeah.
And that's I just use Mozart as an example, but it's something that's been happening, borrowing music for some time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel very uncomfortable about this on behalf of friends who are musicians. Yeah.
And the old story goes, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy writes hit song about girl. But that's got soul, that's got meaning. There's some genuine pain in the words that are written by that particular artist and the way they sing that song.
There's a lot of popular music out there where obviously the artist hasn't felt enough pain.
True.
They've just got one lyric that they've decided to string together like infinitely.
Maybe. And then there's also examples where someone else has felt the pain and written a song for someone else to actually perform. So there's different ones like that. So look, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it feel right, but it's not going to go away quickly. I just wonder where we'll get to and whether regulation will come in as well, where you've got to make sure there's some way known that this is AI or whether it's just suck it up because this is what's happening to the world.
Oh, goodness me. The times are changing. So anyone who's spent any time using AI engines will acknowledge just how congenial these things are. They seem to always be agreeing with you, inflating your ego and being uber supportive. So when it comes to traditional parenting, where hard truths are often laid out bare in painful clarity for many children, it's character building, of course, well, a lot of Chinese children are opting for an alternative, AI parent alternatives. That's right. Rather than face judgment from stern mums and dads, Chinese youths are seeking advice and for support for their choices from virtual parents. And Matt, it's proving to be a popular option that might take off without mothers or fathers' approval.
Definitely without their approval. It's interesting. I've been to China a few times, and one of the expressions that I learnt from China was, I remember seeing there was a student who was a very talented musician playing a real instrument in the traditional sense. And I made the offhand comment, wow, she's a 1 in a million. And they said, well, in China, we don't think that's that special because that means there's 1,400 people like her. And I thought about it, if you've got 1.4 billion, then 1 in a million means that's about right. So there is a lot of pressure from parents, especially when you've only got, say, one child, a lot of pressure on that child to be outstanding, not a 1 in a million. You need to be a 1 in a billion to make your family happy, to make your parents happy, because all the sacrifices they've made for you. So there are some kids, probably, and maybe young adults in China that probably think they've got a fairly harsh messaging from their parents, harsh messaging on their career choice, on their work, their outcomes, a whole range of things. And so some of these videos that are created, some of these digital parenting videos, some by real people, some by AI created people, say things like, don't push yourself too hard, which is something a Chinese parent has never said. It says, Mum and Dad know you've endured a lot. It's okay. Parents don't say that in China. They say, keep trying, make sure you're at the front of that queue, try harder. So this is about just really trying to say it's okay. A bit like, I suppose, Western parents have said for a long time, no matter what you do, you're wonderful, you're the best that's ever been, you will be a success even though you may not be.
Egos, and now we're dealing with it when they get to adulthood.
Well, we are, that's right. So maybe this isn't such a good idea, but there are, at the moment, one particular creating couple, if you like, mum and dad, have got 2 million followers. So they just give positive messages to Chinese kids and they are lapping it up. 2 million of them are lapping it up. So unbelievable.
It's quite clearly a need.
There is a need there. And then they get a bit attached. They start saying, oh, remember it's my birthday in 2 weeks' time. Make sure you say happy birthday to me. Maybe that little creation will, maybe it won't, but they're really after some sort of positive affirmation. Yeah. So maybe the Chinese are trying to catch up to the Western world and give some false affirmations, give some false praise, I'm not sure, but it seems like we have a digital solution for maybe everything at the moment.
Well, I'm not going to finish the sentence, but Mum, Dad, virtual Mum and Dad, I've got this really good idea. I'd like to fill in the blanks, right? And you get that feedback. Oh, that's a great idea, right. Son. Go ahead and do that. Really
whatever
dangerous
that might be.
/ flippant / absolutely ridiculous idea.
Yep, you can see it being very positive all the time. Where could that go wrong?
Ask any oncologist and they'll say that the key to success in fighting cancer is early detection. But spotting tumours in their very early stages takes a keen eye and, well, more than an ounce of good luck too, I guess, which is another practical area where AI has so much potential, Matt, for early stage lung cancer in particular.
I do try and find a good news AI story every week.
This is good.
So this is the one. This is the one for this week. Thank you. It's sometimes hard because some of them are a bit scary. So the NHS in the UK, the National Health Service, performs about 7 million chest x-rays every year. So that's a lot of radiologists out there looking at a lot of x-rays. And I'm not trying to take jobs away from radiologists here, but they've got a lot of skills. One of those skills is looking at chest x-rays. So if we could have some way, some magical way that you could have something else look at those chest x-rays and say, clear, 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 no, not clear. Maybe someone else needs to have a bit of a closer look at this, maybe get this person back in, maybe check this out a bit more thoroughly. This is a bit of a concern, then that'd be a good thing. That would save a lot of time for those radiologists. So the NHS is investing about 41 million Aussie dollars to roll out some technology to do AI-assisted chest x-rays across the entire NHS system in the UK. So that's a significant investment, which it doesn't sound like. Sometimes when you talk about tech, you feel like you're talking about billions of dollars, but this is technology that's been developed to a certain level, and there's now a commercial product out there that will basically look at chest x-rays, specifically chest x-rays, looking for lung cancers. So, and I didn't realise this, but England's biggest cancer killer is lung cancer. So cancer's terrible anyway, and we would like to eliminate lots of cancers, but if you've got the number one killer that's a cancer thing and you can find that early, you can probably do something with it there are ways to treat, I suppose. If you pick up
and the
enough.
tools exist to be able to do this. So you'd have to jump at it, wouldn't you?
That's right. So we've talked about this before. One of the great advantages of AI is that it can absorb so much data that you and I, as clever as we are, could not possibly ever absorb that many samples to get an idea of exactly what I'm looking for. So line us up with millions of pictures and say, here are all the ones that lung cancer exists, here are the ones that aren't. And we look at them and we go through them and we're pretty clever. We'd work it out and we reckon we'd go okay with it. But AI can go better than okay and can do it so
But again,
quickly.
we're not saying that AI is diagnosing. AI is just saying, hey, come back and have a look at this.
Correct. It's basically what they're saying is this is a virtual second set of eyes, although it's the first set of eyes. It's looking at the first screening to say, clear, 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 clear. No, check it out a bit further. Yeah. And then use those radiologists because, again, I imagine a radiologist looking at all those x-rays would go, yep, oh, hold on. And sometimes they could miss one. I'm not saying they do this deliberately. I'm just saying humans are humans. We get tired. We get distracted. Something else happens. We don't concentrate for a second. And you're probably spending as small amount of time as possible while still looking at each x-ray thoroughly enough. And that takes time and takes a lot of concentration. AI doesn't get tired. AI doesn't get distracted. AI doesn't say, what are you doing on the weekend? Oh, yeah, I'm just going out to the footy on the weekend. AI just says, I'm going to look at all these x-rays and tell you the ones you should have another look at. So it enhances, and I think that's where the good stories about AI will be, enhancing our skills, enhancing what we do, enhancing areas where we've got a shortage. We've got a shortage of radiologists around the world. Enhancing those skills, I think, is better. So this is, at this stage, a good news story. Maybe there'll be some example where AI misses it and then everyone will say this is terrible. But I guarantee that this is going to be better. This is going to be more thorough than any humans could possibly do.
And it's about that early detection. So, you know, if there's a chance that you've got something and you can get hold of it before it really becomes a problem, oh, wow.
Yeah, that's right. So
what an advantage.
At the moment, they're saying the average scan time from the time you have your x-ray to the time you've got some indication is already going from 8 days to 4 days just by using this technology. But by rolling this technology out across more hospitals, that'll reduce even further. And the thing I love about it is if I was a minister in the UK government and said, we're going to fix all those chest x-rays and get them observed quicker, the solution would be we're going to employ another 500 radiologists or some huge number, but you've got to get them from somewhere. Yeah. Whereas when I announce that I'm going to roll out an AI tool, well, I can usually get a manufacturer to produce that tool faster than I can find employees to fill all those gaps. So good news story for AI. Keep up the good work, AI, please.
And you, well done. Keep up the good work there too, finding those good news AI stories. But that's all there is for today, folks. I'm running out of words. I've nearly spent the full budget. All that's left is to sign off as succinctly as I possibly can. Thanks for another cracking Tech Talk, Matt.
That's right. I'm just going to go and contact UNSW and see if I can be part of that next little testing of coffee. That sounds like a good thing to do. I'm just going to sit here and drink coffee all day.
Fancy espresso right there.
That's right.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in for another freshly squeezed episode of Tech Talk with Matthew Dickinson. We hope that one or two of our juicy tidbits were enough to fill your cup. I'm your host, James Eddy, signing off for another week. We hope to catch you again in another lap around the track next week with another brand new episode for your enjoyment and perhaps a little further education to boot. If you haven't already, please smash that like button or make sure that you've subscribed through your listening app and drag some friends along next week as well. Until then, take care. See you when we see you.